Hey Squishies! Back again, another vlog. This is the 7 Deadly Sins, episode 2, and I have no idea what the title was. This was a much better episode than the first, I think. Not a lot happened in it plot-wise, but it helped kind of establish more how this world works, the characters, that kind of thing, which is pretty much what the job of the second episode is. We've been introduced to a villain, a face for the Holy Knights. Gilthunder, I think his name is. The dude with the pink hair. Now, right now, he's the main villain, but he doesn't appear to be the leader of the Holy Knights as a whole, just one fortress, possibly. So I suspect he's more the rival, especially the way they framed the whole thing with him throwing the spear and Meliodas catching it and throwing it back. That feels like they're mirroring them to one another. They're making them look like equal opposites. And personality-wise, they're very opposed. Meliodas is very kind of laid back and nonchalant, and Gilthunder is not. He's rulesy, he's in charge. You can't see him comforting a kid or serving customers, you know? He's a commander. And those are all, you know, it's very common in shonen anime in particular to have a rival to the hero, an equal opposite, who starts out as an antagonist and then ends up joining the team at some future point, usually allying against some greater threat kind of situation. You know, it's Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z, it's every Pokemon that Ash catches by battling, which is like a tenth of his Pokemon, at least based on the 2 or 3 seasons of the show I watched back in the day. It's Scar from Fullmetal Alchemist. It's a recurring thing. It's a lot of characters. And that's, I think, what Gilthunder is. That seems to be what they're setting him up as. Now that's assuming that this continues to be the fairly typical shonen anime it looks like. Now, I like that. I like that, even though it's something that I've seen many, many times at this point, I actually still really like that. There's just something about former rivals having to work together, and even more so, I like the characters that are bad guys on the good side. I like those kinds of morally gray, anti-heroic figures, but that particular kind of anti-hero, not the Frodo type where they're an anti-hero in the sense of lacking heroic power, or even the Han Solo type where they're kind of mischievous but still basically good. No, I'm talking about the characters who are pretty much evil, but for reasons of their own they end up on the side of the good guys. My go-to examples, because they were ones I encountered when I was relatively young and starting to realize I really liked this concept, are Gollum from Lord of the Rings, who is, of course, a slimy, nasty, cannibal who never lets go of his desire for the ring, but nonetheless is absolutely essential to the heroes getting into Mordor, even though he tries to betray them in the process, and absolutely essential to them destroying the ring. In fact, he's the one who destroys it in the end. Spoilers for 70-year-old books, I guess. The other character that's kind of my go-to for this is Magus from Chrono Trigger, who is the same kind of thing. I mean, he's even drawn by Akira Toriyama. Come on. He even looks like Piccolo. Like, if Piccolo was a vampire, he'd look like Magus. Anyway, he is evil. He's got complex backstory motivations, but he is still the evil wizard. You know, the dark tyrant ruling from his evil tower, who is, at least initially, appears to be the main villain of the game. He joins the heroes not because he has some change of heart and decides to be good, but because the creature he's seeking revenge on happens to be the last boss of the game. So he basically joins the heroes because they have a common enemy, not because he likes them or has a change of heart or anything. So these are all possibilities of what I see as being likely to happen with Gilthunder. I really hope I'm getting his name right. The names in this show are a weird mix of stuff like Elizabeth, which is easy, and really weird stuff. Like, that's pretty common in anime that's set in like a vaguely Europeanish setting, but usually what you get are either actual European names mixed with random Japanese names, like in Fullmetal Alchemist, where you have, Ed and Al and Trisha and Izumi. Or the other thing you get is stuff like Bakano, where the names are gibberish that's designed to sound vaguely English-y or European-y to Japanese ears. So you get, for example, the most gloriously named character in all of anything ever, Jacuzzi Splot, which to Japanese ears that are only sort of vaguely familiar with English, that sounds like a name. That sounds like a name somebody could have. Those are two relatively obscure words. Somebody would have to have pretty advanced English as a foreign language knowledge before they would encounter either of those words, because they're not words that get used a lot in day-to-day conversations. That said, this one is a little bit weirder because you've got both. You've got Elizabeth, which is a straightforward name, and then you've got Meliodas, which I just find really hard to say because I keep wanting to say Melodious, which sounds much more like a name. And I keep tripping over Gilthunder too. Can't explain why. I'm sure I'll get used to them with time. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, I learned a new word thanks to this. When they mentioned Gruit, I was like, what did they misspell fruit? Did they start to write, because they were talking about alcohol, like, did they start to write grapes and then write fruit and then get confused in the subtitles? But no, the voice actor was clearly saying Groot. What the heck is that? So I went and looked it up, and apparently it's an herbal blend that was used to make beer before they started using hops instead. Who knew? Well, whoever wrote the Wikipedia page on it, for starters. But so that's what the herbs were that they were growing that they were talking about. So, okay, that's why the town has supposedly the best beer ever, because they have great water and they grow these great herbs. That is a jaw-droppingly dick move to deny the town water, but it's actually an example of something that has been talked about. There's this concept, hydraulic empire. Now, it was originally discussed as being something that ancient China did. It is not entirely clear if that is actually true. The concept is still interesting, though. The claim is that ancient China was heavily dependent on irrigation canals because the rivers, China has a couple of really big rivers, but is otherwise actually pretty rocky and arid for a lot of the country. And so you need irrigation to carry water from the rivers to wherever you happen to live. You need canals. So the claim is that what the ancient Chinese government would do is they controlled the canals because they built them. And if a village was rebellious or even disrespectful or anything like that, they would cut off its water supply and give more water to the next village over. The result is that the next village over is happy because they're getting extra water, which they can use to grow extra rice and have extra food and extra babies and extra parties. And rice is wealth and power in ancient China, so they're prosperous and happy, while the unloyal village, the village that didn't toe the line, they all die. And so the result is you are essentially using what amounts to selection process, like breeding, like when you're breeding animals, you're breeding villages. Not the people in the villages, but the cultures of the villages are over time, those village cultures which encourage independence and disloyalty and that kind of thing die, and the village cultures which encourage loyalty and, obedience thrive and prosper. That's the claim. Like I said, it is questionable whether that was really ever practiced, but that's the claim of what hydraulic empire is and does. And that's essentially what's happening here is, this village, didn't perfectly respect my asshole self, I'm going to cut off their water supply. And, drive them into poverty at best, kill them all at worst. He is destroying that village. And he's doing it in a way that only other holy knights can fix, which, of course, there are none, that would work against him, because they're all dicks. Yeah, it's a pretty colossal dick move. He did try to kill that village. And it's, a good thing that they saved it. So overall, I like what the episode did. Now, I do have to complain, again, because it happened again. They're still using the haha, sexual harassment and assault are funny line of humor. And it's obnoxious. And I actually wanted to compare it, because there's a moment where first off, after dressing up Elizabeth in this ridiculous getup, which, based on the opening credits, she's going to be wearing for the rest of the series, he, lifts up her skirt, which is, looking at it in the opening credits, I thought those were shorts, which was bad enough, but that's a skirt? That covers nothing. That poor girl. She's shy already, and he's imposing this on her? Anyway, if she had elected to wear that, well, it would still be the obviously male writers doing it. But in real life, if somebody elected to dress like that, okay, fine. That's how they want to dress. They can dress like that. My problem is someone else dressing her up like that, clearly for their own enjoyment. Anyway, he lifts up the skirt and looks at her panties, which, ew, first of all. And second of all, it made me think of a similar gag in the first episode of the third season of The Slayers. So, first episode of Slayers Try. So that would be back 97, 98, somewhere around there. So almost exactly 20 years ago. there's a similar gag where there's this character, Philia, who at first seems like exactly the kind of like polite, sweet, somewhat sheltered, easily flustered girl that Elizabeth is. Philia turns out to be rather different from that, but at least in her initial introduction, that's kind of how she seems to be. Very proper. She wears this like big pink frilly dress. And Gary notices that she has a tail sticking out from under the dress. And so he's like, what the hell? Is this really a human being? He does the same thing. He pulls up the dress. Everyone assumes he's trying to look at her panties. And Philia screams, pulls out this giant spiked mace that she had strapped to her garter belt, and smacks him so hard that he goes flying off of this bell tower, hits the bell, he and the bell go flying, And the point I'm making is that the gag is not ha-ha sexual harassment. That joke still wasn't that funny, but at least the gag was not ha-ha sexual harassment, it was ha-ha, the largest person in the group who is the best physical fighter just got one shot by this seemingly frail and innocent girl. And not only one shot, but launched flying. They later established that the other characters can't even lift her mace. That she just walks around casually with it at all times. So there's kind of a difference there. The joke has a different focus. And even there, it's like, still, like, part of the joke is that he's looking at her panties. And that's just not funny to me. It's gross. And not in a ha-ha funny kind of gross way that, like, a fart joke or something would be, where I don't even usually like fart jokes, but occasionally you get a funny one. But this just, no. But still, I overall liked it. And in fact, speaking of Elizabeth, I want to mention we got a little character development for her here, where it appears she was actually a rather rambunctious child, which is interesting. Because that seems to have been squished out of her now, but maybe going adventuring, some of that'll resurface. Certainly I would not have expected that this, rather timid girl once climbed a ridiculously tall tree as a child. Some of that mischievous, adventurous spirit might resurface. Only other thing I wanted to comment on is the post-credit stinger thing that showed us the sleeping girl, who is very obviously the giant girl who's very prominently featured in both the opening and closing credits. So clearly, I didn't watch the next episode preview. I don't even know if there was a next episode preview. Netflix doesn't always include them. But regardless, she's obviously going to be showing up next. Because she was in she was in what is clearly the forest that they were talking about. The white something forest, and the trees were all white and so on. Speaking of, I think this is the first time I saw the ending credits. I don't think the ending credit sequence was in the first episode, and I actually really like it. It's fun, it's a good song, it's got kind of a similar vibe. There was this phase in the late 90s, early 2000s, where a lot of anime would have some kind of dancing going on in their ending credits, and the best remembered one is actually a little later than this period, which is the Haruhi ending credits, which was all one big dance sequence. But earlier anime did have a lot of dancing in their end credits, especially fantasy anime for whatever reason. So it's kind of a throwback to those, and that was cute. Even stylistically, it was a kind of a 90s-ish throwback with the I have always called them Saved by the Bell shapes because they look like the opening credits to Saved by the Bell. You know, that solid color with geometric designs of a slightly different color, but not like it's in the same general family of colors, like light brown and dark brown, or like bright green and dark green, or that kind of thing, or green and blue, or whatever. And they kind of dance around. It's doing that. So I enjoyed that. I like so far. Basically, I like the ending credits. I don't like the main character. Storyline is alright, but very familiar. We'll see where it goes. Hope y'all enjoyed that. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. If you want some more videos right away, you can hop over to my Patreon and see them there. Got other goodies there, blog posts, ability to commission videos. Feel free to check it out. Bye.